Hello and welcome back. I'm Holly and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the Economic Corner show, where we update you on all the biggest global economic announcements that are in the news today. The first economic update comes from the US, where President Joe Biden made his first speech to a joint session of Congress. The president's speech was a very optimistic one, with clear words stressing that American economy is out of the troubled waters and ready to shine again. Biden is all set to push through the next phases of packages for the economy and clearly indicated that in his speech. Even with all the criticism around, he was stern on taxing the wealthy Americans. The president was proud of the way his government handled the pandemic and said, "Our progress these past 100 days against one of the worst pandemics in history is one of the greatest logistical achievements our country has ever seen." Speaking on his biggest priorities from a foreign policy front, China and Russia were mentioned. He made a clear remark on the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, saying he's deadly earnest on becoming the most significant, consequential nation in the world. Russia, too, is his big concern, and he said that he has made things clear to Russian president that their actions have consequences. And now, moving on to the top 100 days of President Biden to some important economic data announcements. Tokyo consumer prices fell unexpectedly in April due to cuts in mobile phone fees by major carriers, making the central bank's 2% inflation target appear even more elusive. Major carriers have come under intense pressure from Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, who has called for mobile phone fees to drop as much as 40%, arguing that Japan's cell phone fees are among the world's most expensive, were straining households. And on the other hand, the European Commission's economic sentiment indicator surged to 110.3 points in April from 100.9 in March. In 2 months' time, sentiment has gained 16.9 points, now firmly standing above its long-term average. Amongst the bigger member states, all countries saw higher sentiment figures, with the Netherlands gaining 10.7 points, Spain 9.1, France 8.5, Germany 5.7, and Italy 5.3. There is strength seen across the board, with industrial confidence now at a record high, while sentiment in the service sector surprised with an 11.7-point jump. And producer price index numbers were also released for Australia. Final demand, excluding exports, rose 0.4% this quarter. Final demand, that is excluding exports, saw a rise in petroleum refining and petroleum fuel manufacturing, building, construction, and accommodation. Falls were seen in electronic equipment manufacturing, other transport equipment manufacturing, and furniture and other manufacturing. And next up, meanwhile, from China, its manufacturing and non-manufacturing sentiment fell short of expectations in April of this year, indicating a cooling in economic activity in the first month of the second quarter. China's official non-manufacturing purchasing managers index, or the PMI, a gauge of sentiment in the service and construction sectors, fell to 54.9 in April from 56.3 in March, according to data released by the National Bureau of Statistics. And on the other hand, Japan's industrial output posted a surprise increase in March, as a jump in car production helped keep the economic recovery from last year's deep coronavirus slump on track. The output rise will likely ease worries about the impact of the health crisis, which is having the manufacturing sector in the world's largest economy, which is recovering thanks to strong overseas demand, especially from China. Separate data showed the jobless rate fell from the previous month in a sign of strength in employment conditions, while the average number of available job keeper applications rose slightly. The Japanese manufacturing sector also registered the strongest improvement in operating conditions in the 3-year period, according to the latest PMI data. Firms reported the fastest expansions in production and incoming business since early 2018, as demand and confidence continued to recover from multiple waves of COVID-19 infections. At the same time, additional production requirements encouraged manufacturers to increase employment levels for the first time since December of 2020. As a result, Japanese manufacturing firms expressed a stronger degree of positive sentiment, that is, regarding the year-ahead outlook for the output. And next up, moving on to Germany. Germany's inflation rate rose above 2% for the first time in 2 years, boosted mainly by energy costs. Consumer prices also increased sharply in Spain by 1.9% from a year earlier, and are expected to pick up in France and Italy. A Euro area report due on Friday is set to show the rate reaching 1.5%, the highest since 2019. And next up is US pending home sales data. The numbers increased in March, snapping 2 consecutive months of declines, according to the National Association of Realtors. All but one of the 4 major US regions experienced month-over-month gains in March, while each area recorded year-over-year growth. The pending home sales index, a forward-looking indicator of home sales based on contract signings, rose 1.9% to 111.3 in March. Year-over-year, contract signings jumped 23.3%, with the difference due in large part to the pandemic-induced lockdown in March of 2020. And now for the upcoming data announcements. Eurozone growth data will be released today and will be keenly watched. And that is all from the Economic Corner for today. Being a data-heavy day, stay tuned for more latest news and market updates. My colleague Sage will be here shortly with the market close report for today. This is Holly Shields signing off.